Most people who come to us already tried to get lean or tried to grow. They've dieted, tracked, pushed hard, and they always end up right back where they started with little to no results. It's not because they don't have discipline or desire, it's because they never had a system. They had methods but no structure to tie it all together. And today I'm going to walk you through the exact framework we use with every client that Perform Coaching. This is the system behind over 1,000 transformations and across 13 years of coaching. I'm going to go deep on this. By the end of this, you'll understand not just what we do, but why each piece matters and how it all connects. Whether you ever work with us or not, this will change how you approach your own training and nutrition. Let's get into it. Let's start with why most fat loss attempts don't stick. People dive into a diet with no real starting point. They pick a calorie number from the internet, follow a generic program, and hope for the best. There's no assessment, no phases, no criteria to when to adjust or when to move on. So what happens? They make progress for a few weeks, maybe even a couple of months, and then it stalls. They don't know why, they cut more calories, add more cardio, push harder, and eventually burn out, fall off, and then regain everything again. And then 6 months later, they start again from scratch. And this is the cycle that most people are stuck in. And here's where most people go wrong. They've no baseline. They don't know their true maintenance calories. They don't know what their body actually needs. So they're guessing from day one. They've got no structure to their phases. They treat fat loss as one long push until they can't sustain it anymore. They've no planned recovery, no maintenance period, no structure for what comes after. They make decisions based off how they feel. One bad weigh-in and they panic. One good week and they think they can ease off. One special occasion snowballs into a week off plan. There's no system for when to adjust and when to stay the course. And most common, there's no exit strategy. They hit their goal or get close to it and have no plan for maintaining it. So the weight comes back on, often faster than it left. At Perform, we don't guess, we don't wing it. Every decision is based on data. First of all, we run through an initial environment assessment and temperature check to get an understanding of the client's lifestyle and goals. Then we move them through defined phases: priming, dieting, reverse and maintenance, growth, and then a mini cut when needed. Each phase has a specific purpose. You don't move forward until you've done the phase is designed to do. And this removes the randomness, it removes the emotional decisions, and it creates a system you can repeat for the rest of your life. Let me walk you through each phase in detail. Now, before we even touch your calories or training plan, there's an onboarding process, and that's where the assessment begins. This is the foundation of everything else is built on, and it's why most people fail within the first few weeks. If you get this wrong, everything afterwards is compromised. We take time to understand you, your training history, old injuries, previous diets, lifestyle, job, stress, how you sleep, how many hours you can train. We walk you through your habits and your patterns. When you slip up, what triggers overeating, and how your weekends look compared to your weekdays. We get a clear picture of how your life actually looks like. And why does this matter? Because two people can have the same goal and need completely different approaches. Someone with 10 years of training history, solid tracking habits, a predictable schedule is a different case than someone who's never tracked a meal, worked shift patterns, and failed 3 diets in the past 2 years. Same goal, different paths. The assessment is how we figure out the right path for you. The priming phase is not about losing weight, it's about establishing control. Most people skip this, and it's exactly why they struggle later. You can't manage what you haven't measured. If we don't know your true baseline, we can't make accurate adjustments. We'd be guessing, and guessing creates emotional, sporadic decisions. So for 2 to 4 weeks, we stabilize consistency. We put in a food structure around your routine. You start logging food accurately, keeping daily movement consistent, and following a structured training plan that we designed. This is where we identify friction points: weekends, stress, social life. We fix them before we introduce tougher demands. From this, then you've built a foundation. You know exactly what you're eating, you know what your body does at a certain intake, you have consistent habits and a routine that works, and most importantly, we now have data to progress with. The majority of people see great progress in this phase. Usually sleep, digestion, energy, and performance improves massively just by nailing a consistent routine. Now confidence is built, now you're ready to create a deficit and start losing fat. The goal for our dieting phase is straightforward: reduce body fat, retain as much muscle, and maintain performance. Most people go wrong here by treating it as one long race based on extreme measures, aggressive deficits with no tangible data to assess and progress from. And this leads to burnout, insatiable hunger, poor gym performance, and muscle loss, leaving you looking and feeling like a wet wipe. We choose the approach based on the initial assessment and structured within the timeline we created. We target roughly 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. So if you're a 100 kg male, that can range from a half a kilo to a kilo per week rate of loss. If you're starting with more body fat, you can push the higher end of that range because there's more fat to lose, and your body can sustain a larger deficit without much risk of muscle loss. Now, What happens in this phase? We create a deficit based on data we collected from the priming phase. We're not pulling a random number from a calculator. The deficit is moderate. We're not trying to lose body fat as fast as possible. We're trying to lose fat as efficiently as possible. And that means retaining muscle, keeping your performance up, and not driving you into the ground. Your protein stays high throughout. I don't think I need to explain that reason behind that. And your activity is managed strategically, not thrown in randomly. We don't add cardio in from day one. We don't throw a random step count at you. We start at the minimum effective dose to get the rate of loss we need and use expenditure as a tool to drive you forward when it's needed. Your training here, and this is where most people get it wrong, should start off very progressively. A lot of people assume that once you start dieting, strength goes down. You're in a deficit, you have less energy, and performance drops. That's how it works when programming isn't managed correctly. The reality is that in the early, even to the middle stages of a diet, you should still be progressing in the gym. You're still recovering, you're still adapting. The deficit isn't so severe that your body can't build strength. If you're losing strength in a week or 2 weeks, something is wrong. Either the deficit is too aggressive, recovery is compromised, or the programming doesn't match the context. We expect to see performance improve through the most of the diet. It's only in the later stages when a significant amount of body weight has come off and you're pushing into leaner condition that we shift the goal from progression to maintenance. Every week we're looking at weight trends, not single weigh-ins, trends over time. Daily weight fluctuates. We care about direction over weeks, not what the scale said on one morning. Your visual progress, photos don't lie. Sometimes the scale stalls but you're clearly leaner. Sometimes the scale drops but you look the same. Visual gives us context. Your training performance and lifts, are they holding, improving, declining? This tells us about the muscle retention and recovery that you're maybe lacking. And your biofeedback, sleep quality, hunger, energy, libido, these are early warning signals. If biofeedback is crashing, we need to respond before it becomes a bigger problem. Adjustments happen when the data supports them, not because you had a bad day, not because you're impatient, when the data across multiple indicators tells us it's time. If fat loss is done correctly, you should be considerably leaner, have progressed your training and retained all your muscle. Once your body fat is around 12 to 13%, you're now primed to grow. Now, after the diet is complete, it's not time to grow just yet. You spent weeks or months in a deficit, your body has adapted, metabolic rate has adjusted, hormones have shifted. If you suddenly go back to eating normally, you regain fat fast. After sustained deficit, your metabolic rate is lower, hunger hormones are elevated, muscle protein synthesis is reduced, and your body is primed to regain weight. The reverse phase is where we outsmart this. We rinse fatigue and bring your body back to homeostasis. We gradually bring calories and nutrition up whilst monitoring your response. We don't jump calories back into maintenance overnight. We increase them gradually, watching how your body responds. Weight will come up slightly at the start, which is not fat. It's water, glycogen, food volume, which is expected. What we're watching for is the rate and the trend. The goal is to get you eating as much as possible while keeping your condition stable. More fuel, the same physique. We remove any unnecessary expenditure. And your training, this is the exciting part. This is often where people hit new personal bests. You've got the muscle you built, you've got the leanness you achieved, and now you've got the fuel to actually express your strength. When program is structured correctly, you should see noticeable performance jumps in this phase. Lifts that felt heavy at the end of your diet starts moving faster, rep maxes improve, and you feel strong again. This phase usually lasts around 4 to 8 weeks, depending on how intense and long the diet was. And if this phase is executed correctly, weight will stay stable at higher calories, performance will be back progressing, your biofeedback will be back to baseline, and you're psychologically ready for whatever comes next. This is what most people never achieve. They get lean and they can't sustain it, then they regain. You get lean, you stabilize, you keep it. Now you're in control and you can decide whether to stay lean and maintain, or you're in your perfect position and primed, ready to grow. When you're lean, and only if you're lean, should you grow. The purpose of dieting and reversing correctly is to create the best environment to grow from. Most people make the mistake trying to grow when they're too fat. If your body fat is over 15%, you need to diet first. When your body fat is too high, you're more insulin resistant. The more food you eat gets stored as fat rather than supporting tissue growth. You'll get even fatter, and by the time you finish growing, you'll have so much weight to come off that you'll lose the muscle that you gained in that process. The ideal place to grow for a man is around 12 to 13% body fat. You're lean, your nutrient partitioning is great, and you can grow for longer without getting fat. And the goal here, build muscle tissue, improve training performance, and do both while keeping body fat accumulation controlled. This is not an excuse to get sloppy. Bulking, as most people do it, eating everything in sight, gaining weight rapidly, getting soft, is inefficient. Most of that weight gets put as fat, not muscle. We're after lean gains, controlled progress, ending the phase with significantly more muscle and only slightly more body fat. We set a structured rate of growth target of 1/4 to 0.5% of body weight per month. That's slow, but it's intentionally slow. A growth phase should last a minimum of 5 or 6 months if you want to see real improvements, because muscle growth is slow. If you're putting on kilos every week, you're getting fat, you're not growing. We increase calories above maintenance gradually, not a sudden jump of 1,000 calories overnight. We monitor your rate of gain. If weight's climbing too fast, we pull back. If it's stalling, we add more. The surplus is a moving target, adjusted based on what's actually happening. Protein stays high, enough to support muscle protein synthesis, but it doesn't need to be as extreme as it was during a deficit. Carbohydrates become more important here for fueling training and recovery. Training is the primary focus. You have more fuel, recovery is high. The goal is to push for performance. And progressive overload is the primary driver for muscle growth. You need to be doing more over time, more weight, more reps, and maybe more volume. The goal is to stay in a productive range through. Lean enough that you're partitioning nutrients well, not so lean that you can't support growth. If it's done right, you'll have more muscle tissue, better training performance, and a physique that's improved, not just heavier, and a body fat that's still manageable range, so you don't need to diet for 6 months to recover. If you need to diet for another 6 months after your growth phase, you got fat. If the goal is to continue to grow for the next few years, this is where mini cuts come into the regime. Sometimes during a growth phase, body fat drifts higher than we want, usually at the ends, and when that happens, we use a mini cut. The mini cut is a short, focused fat loss in the middle of or an end of a growth period. It's not a full diet, a brief, aggressive intervention to restore condition and set up continued growth. We do this for efficiency. The leaner you are, the better partition nutrients you have. If body fat creeps up too high during a growth, a mini cut restores that efficiency. If body fat has drifted above your comfortable range, visual condition has degraded noticeably, you have been in a surplus for an extended period of time, 16 weeks, 20 weeks or more, motivation or psychological state is declining because of the fat accumulation. A mini cut can restore your physique and your mindset. Duration is short, 3 to 6 weeks typically, enough to make a noticeable difference, not long enough to dip into the muscle that you've built. When programmed correctly, body fat gets reduced, muscle is retained, and condition is restored. And then you're ready to resume growth from a better position with better nutrient partitioning and a refreshed psychological state. So that's the Perform framework. Your assessment, your timeline, employment phase, dieting, reverse, growth, and then mini cuts when necessary. Each phase has purpose, each phase has a criteria. You don't skip steps, you don't make emotional decisions halfway through. How does it actually play out like over time? Let's say you come to us wanting to get lean. We assess, we build a timeline, you go through a priming phase to establish your baseline, and then you diet. Lose fat at a sustainable rate, maintain your performance, and retain the tissue that you have. When you hit your goal, you don't just stop, you reverse into maintenance. Calories come up, condition stabilizes, and performance recovers. And now the beauty part of it, you have options. Maybe you maintain for a while, enjoy the physique, live your life, stay ready. Maybe you decide to build. You enter a growth phase, controlled surplus, progressive overload, add more muscle. Months later, body fat has drifted up, so you do a mini cut, strip off the excess, restore condition, and then back to growth. Build more muscle, maybe another mini cut when needed. Eventually, you might want to get really lean and do a photo shoot, or even prep for a holiday, a personal milestone, so you diet again. But the beauty of this framework is you're starting with more muscle than before. You end up leaner and more muscular than the first time you do it. Year after year, you're compounding progress. You're not yo-yoing, you're not starting over, building on what you've already achieved. This framework removes the guesswork. Every decision is based on data. You know what you're doing and what you're doing. It removes inconsistency. The structure keeps you on track even when motivation fluctuates. There's no more reactive decisions, and you never go back to those yo-yo cycles. You're not dieting, regaining, you're progressing. You've now got clarity, structure, control, and predictability, a system for long-term progression. This is the difference between people who transform once and people who transform permanently and consistently, and that's the Perform framework. If you've been stuck in the cycle, dieting, regaining, starting over, this is the way out. And if you want help implementing this, that's what we do. There's a link in the description to apply for coaching, or if you'd like to see the framework in action, there's a video over on my channel. If you found this valuable, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.